In this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways to make an extra $100,000 in 2025 on the side with a full-time job. Now, these 3 ways are actual ways that you can make money. They're not some of these side hustle videos that you see where you can teach English over Zoom to somebody in a foreign country, or you can ghostwrite a book for somebody, or manage their social media account, or drive Uber. No, this is an actual way to make an extra $100,000 cash or add $100,000 to your net worth. 3 separate ways that are proven that you can go implement. I'm gonna introduce them to you, then I'm also going to give you some tips and tricks to maximize them. How does that sound for a video? If you appreciate that, hit that like button and stick with me to the end. I got a bonus surprise for you there. All right, so there are a lot of ways to make money in real estate, and depending on your situation, these are 3 different ways that you can make money. Some people may resonate with one or the other, or you can do a few different ones. Number 1 would be wholesaling real estate. This is great for somebody that doesn't have a great credit score, or that's brand new to real estate investing, or is looking for some extra cash now. This is a quick cash type of strategy. I'm gonna explain what it is, break it down in ways you've probably never seen it broken down, and then give you 2 tips at the end to help maximize it if you wanna go down this path. So when you are wholesaling, you are just doing a part of the real estate transaction. So most of you probably know that investing in real estate is taking a distressed property, doing something to it, fixing it up, making it nice, and then selling it for a profit. That's real estate investing in general. When you're wholesaling, you are living inside the transaction and only doing a part of that process, and you don't even need your own money or credit score to do it, which again, this is why this is great for younger people. Maybe they don't have established credit, or somebody that's looking to make some extra cash that potentially wants to get out of bad debt sooner rather than later, because certain strategies in real estate take a long time to implement, years upon years, some several months. This can be done pretty quick. So let's walk through a deal and let me show you what wholesaling actually is. So what a wholesaler does is they find a distressed property. There are endless ways to do that. We're not going to go into those ways right now, but there are a ton of different ways to find distressed properties. They must be distressed. They cannot be a rent-ready or market-ready house. So let's say that as a wholesaler, you get this distressed property under contract to purchase for $150,000. You negotiate with the seller, go back and forth, you get it under contract to purchase on a sheet of paper for $150,000. That is day 1 of the contract. Day 45 of the contract states that you will close on day 45 and they will get their $150 grand. In the meantime, at some point in the process, let's say on day 8, you sell the property to another investor. You haven't closed on it. You don't need any funding because you're not getting a loan. You don't need any cash because you're not closing on it. It's just on paper. And you sell that paper, let's say for $175,000, which is about the national average wholesale fee, because these aren't easy to find. You can do it, I promise. You can make a lot of money doing each one. So everything's great. You sell it to somebody that's going to fix it up and they're going to make money on it. Boom. Day 45 comes along, closing day. The person who's buying it from you, who bought the deal from you, is going to go to the title company and they're going to close. The person that you bought the house from gets a check for $150,000. You get a check for the difference, which is $25,000. And again, you didn't need any money or credit to do it. Now, of course, if you have that money or you have that credit, it might be a little bit easier because you're able to close if you have to, and you're able to do more because you have more control and you're able to get funding if you need to or want to do something else with it, but it is not a requirement. So that's kind of wholesaling in a nutshell, selling paper, selling contracts. Let me give you some 2 tips to help you maximize that. The first tip I want to talk about when we're talking about wholesaling that can help you be more efficient with less risk is making sure to have transparent contingencies in your contract. What does that mean? Let's go back up to this example. You got the property under contract from the home seller for $150 grand. You could put a 14-day contingency on this, meaning you have 14 days to back out of the contract. Now make sure the seller knows about it. If you don't make a big deal about it, they're not going to make a big deal about it. Just say, hey, I'm going to get you $150 grand for your property. You can tell them that you're planning to sell it. You can tell them you're bringing in partners or contractors or financial commitments. Obviously, you don't want to lie through your teeth. Just explain that you may or may not close. You're giving them the number that they want, and you're going to bring somebody else in, a second set of eyes, to confirm a few different things, and potentially you're going to keep it or you're going to sell it to them. They're all fine with that. As long as they get their number, they're happy. And during those 14 days, communicate with the seller what's going on. And on this example, day 8, you sold it, boom, contingency's gone, it's a done deal. If you got to day 14 and you hadn't sold it and you don't have the funding to buy it, you just go to the seller and say, hey, we've been talking over the past couple weeks, I just can't come to that number. I ran some extra numbers, I got some bids, I talked to a few different people, I tried to sell it and that's too high. So back out of the contract, legally, morally, they're no worse off than they were 14 days before. They can go to somebody else, or you could potentially get a price reduction. So contingencies that are transparent, that you're honest about, are huge here. Tip number 2 would be learning how to reverse wholesale. Reverse wholesaling is going and finding a buyer and then finding a property rather than the other way around. So you won't have to worry about selling it. So in this case, you would go to potential buyers, landlords, flippers, whoever you meet for your networking online and at local meetups, other real estate investors, say, what are you looking for? And hopefully you talk to an experienced investor who has money, who has cash that you know you can count on, and they say, hey, I look for properties in this zip code at this price point, this many years old, that need about this much work. That gives you a clear direction to go find properties like that, communicate with them throughout the process, maybe even bring them along with you on the appointment so you can get it locked up then and there without a contingency, because you know that they have the cash to back it up and they're going to sign it over to them. A good real estate investor is not going to go around you to go straight to the seller. They want you to bring them more deals. So reverse wholesaling is a great way to know or have a known buyer at the end, so you don't have to stress about a contingency. So in order to make that $100,000 that I talked about at the beginning of this video, you could do this 4 times, which I know sounds like a lot, but every 90 days, get one wholesale deal for 25 grand is 100% doable. Yes, it requires work, but so does making money, so does creating wealth, so does living paycheck, so does living paycheck to paycheck. It all kind of requires work. So do 4 of these deals. It's gonna be a lot of work, but you can make an extra 100 grand doing that. The second way to make extra money in 2025 in real estate is to fix and flip. This is buying a property, potentially from a wholesaler. I'm gonna bring up that same example. We're just gonna look at it from a different angle, and you are buying the property, you're closing on the property, you're repairing the property, and then you're selling the property. You could probably do just 2 of these and make that $100,000. The profit margins are usually double what it is when you wholesale, but there's a lot more risk involved to fixing and flipping. You need access to funding or funding yourself. You need to be able to close on the property, and you need to be able to hire and manage contractors or do some of the work yourself. So a lot more work that goes into it. It is a lot more risk, but also the rewards are a lot more, and you won't have to do as many. So let's say you do 2 of these in 2025. Let's go through it a little bit, then I'm gonna give you those 2 tips on this one as well. So here's that typical real estate deal I was telling you about earlier. You just come into play at a different point. So let's say the wholesaler brought it to you for that $175,000 that we talked about. So they got it for $150,000. We talked about that earlier. And then they wholesaled it to you, if you're not the wholesaler, for $175K. So you buy this distressed property for $175,000. Let's say you put repairs and holding costs of about 50 grand into it. It needed work. So you have $225,000 in this property that you bought and fixed up either with your money, a private lender's money, a hard money lender's money, or a combination of the 2 and other resources, and you bought it fixed up for $225,000. At this point, you put it on the market for, let's say, 300 grand, and you sell it for around that. So you sell it for 300 grand, you got your minus your cost that you have in it to buy it and fix it up, including holding costs, minus your 175 plus 225, so minus 225K. So that gives you a 75K spread, which is a lot because it was a lot of work. However, if you do it this way, there's going to be some closing costs that comes out of it, probably around 6% of the purchase price. So around 6% of that. So what is 6% of 300,000? That's 18 grand. So 18 grand is going to come out between closing costs and between paying your realtor. So minus 18K there. So you're looking at, what is it, 7, 6, 5? Yeah. So you're looking at about 57 grand profit, which makes a ton of sense. Maybe there's some occupancy things or some inspection items that the person you're selling the house to, the family, wants. But again, you can do this and clear 50K pretty easily if you are consistent and get a good deal on the front end. Now let's go over those 2 tips to help you maximize this. Sorry, my writing sucks. Tip number 1 for fixing and flipping is have the proper list price. The real estate market is crazy. Houses go above asking, houses go below asking. Most of the houses that go below asking are people that didn't do enough research on the front end to get a proper list price. When you're looking to list your property, I tell people it makes more sense to list a little bit lighter and let the market speak. If it's a good property, you did a good rehab, it's not gonna sell for below value. People will do a bidding war, multiple people will offer on it, and you will be able to maximize it. However, if you list it too high and it doesn't sell, then it starts to get some stink on it. And if the house is sitting for 30, 45, 60 days in today's market, people assume something's wrong with it and pass on it, or they're gonna lowball the crap out of you. So list your property properly. Look at where other houses listed. Don't look at where they sold. Look at where they listed and then where they sold and compare to your house. Tip number 2 for fixing and flipping would be to make your project about 10% better than the competition. If you you are flipping a $300,000 house like we just talked about, look at other houses that have sold in the area that are in similar condition that yours is going to be, what they sold for, and look at the conditions of those houses. If those houses all have granite countertops, easy close cabinets, and stainless steel appliances, maybe you throw in a backsplash and put a marble countertop on it. Make it a little bit better. Don't make it cheaper, but don't go above and beyond. Don't do a 48-inch high efficiency stove and a huge walk-in refrigerator and all of these things that are overpricing you for the market. Look at what the market is, make it about 10% better. That will allow you to sell for more and faster. So huge tip here, make it a little bit better, not a ton better, because you can overprice yourself. I've done it a lot. In fact, there was this one time, it was probably my third flip, we bought a house on Pequeno Street in South County in St. Louis. The house needed a ton of work, a ton of foundational damage. We got it all fixed. We got a lifetime warranty on it. The foundation was stronger than it was the day it was poured. All the work we put into it. However, it looked really bad. So we took pictures of it, had everything documented, and we finished out the basement and made it a 5-bed, 4-bath by adding an egress window and a whole nother bedroom downstairs. And we completely priced ourselves out of that neighborhood. The highest price a house had sold in the neighborhood was, I think, around $195,000. That's what we were in our deal for. So we listed at $230,000, got a couple offers. People dropped their offer because they saw how overpriced it was or didn't think the area would support that price range. And we ended up selling ours for about $195,000. But after holding costs and waiting several months, we ended up losing about 30 grand. And I'm confident that the extra 50 grand we put in the basement is the reason we lost 30 grand. If we didn't do that, we would have actually made money on the deal. Lesson learned now. All right, the first two ways I showed you to make that $100,000 wholesaling and fixing and flipping were active. They required a lot of work, but you got the return immediately. This last way I want to show you how to make an extra 100 grand is going to be 100 grand added to your net worth through buying 2 different rental properties. So we're going to go over the methods that I've used to buy $50 million worth of real estate from zero. I'm going to show you those methods now. We're going to walk through a deal similar to ones we just walked through. Then I'm going to give you those 2 tips again, and then I'm going to give you a freebie at the end. All right, so I just want you to know that you can mix and match all 3 of these. The most successful investors I know, including myself, we fix and flip, we wholesale, and we add rentals. We need active income and passive wealth all at the same time, because you're never going to create wealth simply by fixing and flipping or wholesaling. That's cash that you're going to use, and I guess you could invest, but wealth comes through owning real estate long-term and owning a volume of real estate long-term. So let's help you do that now. All right, the Burs method is what you're going to use to buy these 2 properties in 2025 using none of your own money. I talk about it a lot on here, but stick with me. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. At the end, again, I'm going to give you a freebie and shoot you to another video that explains it in a little bit more detail, but I don't want to bog down this video. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and systemize. And what you need is that distressed property we talked about, and then you need a private lender or somebody that's going to give you money short term. So let's go through that exact example deal. You got a property for 175 grand from that wholesaler that we talked about at the very beginning, and it needs $50,000 worth of work. Same thing. The best landlords I know, we make our houses, our rentals, similar condition to our flips because we want to make it a desirable place for the tenant to live. We want it to be somewhere a tenant wants to live, not has to live. And as tenants are scrolling through Zillow, looking for their next rental property, the good ones at least are going to look at a few different pictures and they're going to want to stay somewhere freshly rehabbed. So what we do on this thing is we borrow $225,000 from a private lender, let's say, to keep this simple, to buy and repair this distressed property. The next thing you do is get the property rented and start to collect rent. You haven't paid anybody back yet. This next step is the cash out refinance step. You go to a local bank or a DSCR lender and do a cash out refinance. Small local banks are glad to do this. DSCR lenders are glad to do this. Just get a referral from somebody in your network or somebody in your area, or check out the description of this video and get access to my hard money lending company and my DSCR lending company. So regardless, what you're going to do is you're going to get a cash out refinance. So let's say this property appraises for $300K. Remember, it's the same house, same appraisal. You can get an 80% loan for that. 80% of $300,000 is $240K. So you take that $240,000 after the refinance and you take that check and you give all of it or most of it back to your private lender. So 225, let's say you gave him 10 grand in interest. So your private lender, he or she wrote you a check for 225. 90 days later, you write them a check back for 235 or even 240, and they can make 10 or 15K on their money. Now they're happy, the house is happy, they're paid off. Now you of course do owe the bank $240,000. However, you take the rent every single month and you pay back the bank. And if you want to actually systemize and do this at a high level, what you do is you make sure you're following me. Hit that subscribe button. Check out the description of this video where I have a freebie. I'm giving you my Freedom Starter Pack. And don't worry, I'm not done. I just want to pitch this real quick. It's absolutely free. It's a starter pack. It includes private lender scripts, how to get private lenders. It also includes my cash cash flow and rehab estimator calculators for free. It also includes my Amazon best-selling book. I give you the ebook of that for free. It includes introductions to my lending company, and it also includes my AI customized real estate chatbot, and it also includes a video course. It's all free, all for you in the description, or just go to freedomstarterpack.com. All right, the cool thing here is you have $60,000 worth of equity. The house is worth $300K, and you have a loan for $240K. So you didn't use any of your own money, and you have $60K equity. So you do this twice, and boom, you got your $120K actually of income that I talked about earlier in this video. A couple quick tips I want to talk about in this video, then I'm going to shoot you over to another video, is the rental tip. Today, with the industry that we're in and the technology we have, you have multiple options to rent your property. You can rent it on a short-term basis, Airbnb, VRBO. Not every place allows for it, is good for it, but there's probably more places that allow for it and that are good for VRBOs than you think. It doesn't have to be a vacation destination. So you can rent it on a short-term basis and get about 5 times the net cash flow as renting out on a long-term basis. You can rent it out on a mid-term basis, a mid-term rental. You get about double the net cash flow. You rent it out to traveling nurses, corporate leases, digital nomads for 3-4 months at a time. So you have a couple tenants a year. Management's not too bad. You can get double the cash flow. And last, you can rent it on a long-term 12-month basis to Section 8 or market rent. So you have multiple different tenant bases that you need to look at when you're underwriting the deal. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 for me is we charge about 90% of market rent. We do that because we want our tenants to stay longer and feel like they're getting a good deal. We not only take care of our tenants and respect them and treat them like people, we give them a little break on rent compared to market rent. That way they stay longer. If you maximize rent, your tenant may stay, but they might leave because they can get a better deal somewhere else. And when tenants move out and you have expenses and you're not collecting income, that can sink you. And that's the most expensive part about owning rental properties, especially if you only own a few. So we give 90% rent and we have our tenants stay for 4 to 5 years. So meaning in a decade, I have 2 tenants. You maximize rent, maybe get a little bit more money right now, but I got a feeling you're going to have tenants leave every year or 2, and it's going to absolutely crush your overall portfolio cash flow. So if you learned anything from this video, again, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and check out this video over here where I walk through the Burs method in a little more detail. And don't forget to head to the description to get all the freebies. See you on the next one.